a little bit more on why you're going to have that problem if it wasn't obvious there. I mean, I talked about tapes. Tapes aren't something that most people dealing with IT see every day. The ones that you might be more familiar with, hopefully some people here still recognise those. You've got flash drives. Again, these guys are getting pretty rare. And you can see that already, right? That things that we've been familiar with and have become readily recognisable are suddenly no longer around. So what do you do if you still have your information on one of these? Or when USB goes away, what are we going to do? So some new thing is going to come along. We'll all be excited about it. And what are we going to lose with all our old information? So it's not only these form factors changing as well. It can be the data formats that they're stored in. Some of these tapes had problems with proprietary formats that the data was being written into on them. Problems with proprietary formats should be fairly obvious to most people, but if nobody knows what that format is, only the party that sold you the device, you're kind of in trouble if they're no longer around. Okay, so it's not just the media itself changing, it's the format of data sitting on them. I just picked a specific example. All of those previous kind of media types there have different lifespans, so you might start thinking one format is better than another. You'd be right. You might be thinking some of them are probably a hell of a lot better than others, and you'd be right again, but they're not as good as you think, right? So taking tape, which is generally the one that is most popular for people storing data for long periods of time, I pulled this information from this source website here. It'll be in the slides when I send it around. But depending on what you're doing, what version of tape you are running, whether you verify your read and writes after you've done them, how many times you're cycling your data, the kind of figures that you can expect some of these tapes to still be readable after could be as little as 4 years. Now it might be as much as 30 if you haven't even checked what you wrote. If you want to take that chance, you can, but you're definitely not going to get more than 30 years, and 30 is very long on these things. That's your highest outlier at 30. Your next lowest one is 21, and very soon you're coming down to numbers that are very scary, like 4 years. And to kind of give you an idea where this might be going, so I had a look around at some of the storage media that people are talking about today. So one of them that's coming fairly soon, possibly, is helium hard drives. So they have these are coming in a 3.5-inch form factor from HGST, which are Western Digital subsidiary. None of this, by the way, is on any like secret roadmaps. You can Google it all yourselves. But these discs are coming. They're like 40% higher capacity. They should be backwardly compatible because they're a form factor, we know. But even already 3.5-inch disk drive formats are going away. They're just too big. They don't fit into laptops. People don't use them. They take up too much space in the data center. Presumably they'll come out in 2.5-inch as well. Holographic storage is another one that people are talking about, probably a little bit further away. It's a modification of what you already have on CDs and DVDs. It's hitting these lasers are hit into the storage media at different angles to try and create a higher density data format, but within the same size as a standard CD or DVD today. But what about when those lasers like disappear? So see how this is a specific device that's needed to read that type of media. The lasers that we use today wouldn't be able to read those, and more than likely those lasers won't read our media today either. So once these become popular, you won't be able to get DVD readers anymore. Some of these more kind of out there ones that I came across, this one during the week was very interesting. This is a bit more of a researchy one. I think there's a lot more work to be done on this, but these guys are basically looking, I think this is Hitachi, yeah. These guys have, you can see the photo, they've got a little piece of quartz glass that they put binary code into in the form of little dots in 4 different layers, and they can read back data from that. They're getting capacities on what she's holding there at about 40 megabytes per square inch, which is equivalent to CD and they reckon these are very durable. And they're talking about these kind of lifetimes, several hundred millions of years, right? But as I was talking to people, and one of my colleagues said to me, they were very correct. Glass at room temperature is really a very slow moving fluid, right? And if you look at a window that's 50 years old, it'll be bulging more at the bottom than it is on the top. And that type of slight movement that you'll have in that media could mean that several hundred million years that they claim could be less than 50. And God knows what type of device is going to be able to read that. You know, so they're claiming it could be done with the human eye in a microscope. As long as somebody in the future understands what binary code is, they could potentially get the data back with the human eye in a microscope. But I wouldn't like to be trying to do it. The genetic hard drives, this is another one that some of you might have heard of. This is some research that's going on looking at how DNA, which is an extremely data-dense format for storing data, could be used. So they can use like a DNA sequencer instead of, like, if you use the analogy over here of the CD, they're using a DNA sequencer here to read in and out data. They've been able to do it with like a single textbook or something. They can store it in a kind of DNA format and read it back. This stuff is a bit out there yet, but they're looking more at media density, billions of gigabytes per gram of media. So if you think of where this could be going, how radically storage media could change, it's kind of an eye-opener for people.